Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next chapter analysis video for City of Echoes. This one's going to be for chapter 3. So just before we jump in, I will mention that I do have YouTube channel membership and Patreon available if you would like to help support the channel. If you come in at the higher tier, you will gain early access to videos in this series. But yeah, let's go into chapter 3, where we immediately follow up on the events of the last chapter, which of course was Juan not letting Jin have the medicine because she misplaced the money, even though she's a loyal customer. Very awkward situation on all accounts at the end of the last one. So this is how they follow it up. When she's halfway home, Dr. Jan actually kind of runs up behind her and is just like, hey, why are you leaving empty-handed? And she's like, Juan, find the Guan family package. And so he immediately gets it out, hands it over to her, and apologizes for kind of what happened. She apologizes on his behalf as well. This is where the reveal that Juan is Dr. Jan's son comes out. And we see again, it's another particularly awkward situation where he kind of feels a little bit like he's been forced to apologize. Like, did he actually do anything wrong here? But the point here, of course, is that, you know, she views Jin as a loyal customer. There was no reason for this incident to have happened. That she was perfectly fine with waiting for the payment until next time out. And what you begin to get here is something that maybe I should have commented on in the previous 2 chapters, but the idea of this kind of sense of camaraderie among the people in the lower ring. It's not kind of every man for themselves type situation. They do sort of try to help each other out, while at the same time highlighting that, yeah, if you go down the wrong back alley, you're going to be in a rough spot. But there is a community of all these kind of refugees trying to help each other out. And, you know, the apothecary being kind of cool about kind of payments is one of those kind of aspects. And it becomes a kind of theme across the book, is that, yeah, you have these kind of maybe negative perceptions of the lower ring. But here we kind of present the positive side of that, of people who all are kind of struggling in their own way, trying to help each other, knowing the situation that they're actually in. So yeah, Jin comes out of this, she has the medicine now, but she just like is a bit sick to her stomach that just this super awkward and frustrating situation happened. Then we get to the second kind of half of the chapter. So we get home and we get to kind of meet Gong Gong effectively for the first time. She immediately is like, oh, he's up watering plants. No, you should be resting. She realizes that this is one of his kind of clear days where he has his full kind of mental clarity. But she notes that these days seem less common now. So we do a bit of the backstory, clarifying a bit better what exactly happened here. So we get the clarification that a few years back, of course, when they came to Ba Sing Se as refugees, on the journey from Da Ying to Ba Sing Se, they had to go through a mountain pass. There was a bit of a rock slide. A tree toppled in their path. Gong Gong took the brunt of the impact, saving Jin and another woman, but his leg was broken in the process. And they had to kind of, you know, set his leg in a pretty rough way, and he only got to see a doctor kind of weeks later, kind of in the city and stuff like that. But Gong Gong would always note that the broken leg sort of allowed them to kind of more comfortably get into the city because he was someone who was somewhat seriously injured. And we highlight that, you know, he regained the strength in his leg, though they note that he has a little bit of a limp, kind of drags his leg a little bit. But what seemed to happen after this is that he started to experience bouts of confusion and memory problems afterwards. And Dr. Johns thinks that this is like he must have hit his head in the fall. They focused on the broken leg and they maybe missed that there was kind of a head injury there. And so to this day, for the last kind of few years, he has been very on and off. Sometimes he's himself, sometimes he's not. And they do describe that here. It says here, some days he's my Gong Gong, someone who has always been there for me since I was born, a skilled calligrapher who once helped the governor with maintaining his records and official communications between the village and the capital. He picked up his brush after we moved here, but other days he would lie in bed in a daze, believing that we were still back in Da Ying, confusing me for someone else. So they never obviously give you a full detail on what exactly is the problem here, but it seems like he has dementia or something along those lines, just based on this, and especially when we see a scene later of like one of his bad days. I think that kind of is the idea here, is that because they maybe don't have the high-end doctor to figure this out, the head injury maybe wasn't kind of like managed as effectively as it should have been. So she gets him back inside. We get a description of their kind of like apartment, which kind of Jin kind of helped to choose, mainly because it would leave a room for him to do his calligraphy with a lot of light for the most kind of time possible. And we really do get across that like he is an excellent calligrapher. So that's you know, a cool detail, and he's passing some of that stuff on to Jin, but that, you know, also Jin's father was kind of into it as well, so it's interesting. But yeah, this is where we then get introduced to this kind of Jin's schooling is kind of revealed to us here, where she has this kind of scholarship to the Literature Academy here, and Gong Gong really wants her to pursue this. So even though she's going off to make his tonic, he's like, no, you've got to practice your letters. You don't realize it, but the tests, like, they will critique every single stroke, every dot. You have to know this more than anything. That's what he wants for her, is to potentially get a spot in Ba Sing Se University. But he also does realize the kind of reality of the tough situation they're in. So yeah, she can help out the Wen bakery, and she has to do all her other subjects as well. She can't only focus on the calligraphy. So you can sort of see how Jin is in a kind of tough spot just with the situation at home, but then also kind of balancing, like, she kind of wants to help the Wen family more and more and kind of make that her job, but then she has this potential to do more if she pursues her calligraphy. And how can she make that decision right now when everything is so in flux to a certain degree? It's just like things are tough in the lower ring. So yeah, that's that. So as she's making the tonic, she remembers that she has this novel here, and we just get this fun description of what this novel that Susu gave to her actually is. It's about a young girl from Omashu who ventures into the desert to escape her horrible family and finds love and adventure out in the sands. It's just a fun idea that there are these kind of novels out there, and it's specifically about Omashu in the desert. It's a fun thing. Jin also kind of notes that, you know, the lower ring can be harsh, but there are moments of loveliness as well. And as she highlights with sort of like the contrast between like the boys kind of like making fun of her, bullying her, but the goodwill of Dr. Jan in all of this. And both those things are present. Not to mention the Wens taking her in, of course. That whole idea. So yeah, Gong Gong goes to sleep. And as she's about to go to sleep herself, she hears footsteps, someone knocks at the door, and it's Susu. So they're about to have this cool conversation here at nighttime, and that's how we end the chapter. It's a direct setup for chapter 4 as this big, important kind of conversation that they're going to have, given that the plot is about to come into play very, very quickly overall. So yeah, a bit of a smaller chapter, but there's a lot of important information here because it gives you the full details on the kind of Gong Gong situation, as well as the aspect of like school in Jin's life as well, that she's balancing a lot of different things. And so the idea is that like she has a certain stability right now, but if any one of these things goes wrong, she's in a bad position, and that's just the problem with the kind of lower ring right now. So, you know, pretty solid chapter, but we're still in the early days introducing things, but the plot's going to come into play, like I said, pretty soon here. So yes, that's chapter 3. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on this one, but that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.